Hey, today I'm going to discuss Reparation by Joshua Bennett, which I found on poetryfoundation.org, I think the organ of poetry. This is from Poetry, April 2020. Reparation by Joshua Bennett. They tell you the tumor at present is roughly 4 inches wide, a manageable distance, one that you scale with your hands for some reason on the long ride back to Boston, rather counterintuitively, as you were trying to use them to write something meaningful about all this pain, the miniature killer inside your father carved into you. The gesture teaches you absolutely nothing about the space between his inconstant body and the dark man you chase in all of your thinking. He is hundreds of miles away right now, probably, sitting in a chair, staring at the wall like a former assailant. He is sending you text messages with critical pieces of language missing. You grasp at the shards stupidly. Little builder, little mirror, little bodyguard, throwing punches at the flood. So that's Reparation by Joshua Bennett. I think this is a good poem for me for I was very confused at the beginning because I think I saw this, you know, about okay, someone's been told that they have a tumor, or at least that's what it seems like. They tell you that there's a tumor present is 4 inches wide, and you think, oh, this is a tumor inside of this person, this you's head. But then you get to that line, the miniature killer inside your father carved into you. So suddenly you're going, oh, you're traveling away from a different story, somebody else's news that they have a tumor inside them, that his father has a tumor carved into has a killer inside of your father, which is carved into you, the you of the poem. So it took me the longest time to actually kind of try and get that straight in my head, even as I was reading it. So there was there's that to start off with. It's like I think I always come from a thing on poetry. It's like I don't know what the hell is going on in this poem, and having the patience just to sort of sit with it and let it kind of percolate in until finally the penny drops, and you suddenly realize this is a poem about a son's reaction. I'll go Joshua, so I'll go with a son's reaction to the fact that his father has a tumor inside of him. Um, and it's interesting at the beginning. There's like a manageable distance. It's 4 inches wide, a manageable distance, one that you scale with your hands. And so scale can be mean like oh, I'm like how big is that, like, and you kind of scale it that way, but also scale as like you're trying to kind of climb it, you're trying to grapple with it in a way. You're trying to like you scale something to get to the top, get on top of things. um so and then rather counterintuitively, he says, like, he's doing it rather counterintuitively, because as you were trying to use them to write something meaningful about this pain, but instead, no, you're doing this, which is counterintuitively, which is it's counter to the intuitive act, perhaps, of writing something meaningful. Is you're doing kind of a very practical thing of like, how big is that? How big is that? Um, and so this miniature, but it's interesting we get to that twist there that got me, that kind of brought me up short, which is a good thing, I think, in poetry, of the miniature killer inside your father carved into you. So there's a miniature killer inside of your father, but it's carved into you. So this is where, like, there's obviously, the father's pain. There's the father's, like, it's a killer. It's going to, I guess the implication, this is a tumor that the father is not going to survive, and that it's like it's carved into you. It's causing you. It's causing this you pain. So it's interesting. We're moving away from the father to the person outside, the relative outside of the father, the son outside of the father, going, this is going to kill my father, and I can feel that carved into them. Um, and but finds that the gesture, that scaling gesture, teaches him absolutely nothing about the space between the father's inconstant body and the dark man you chase in all of your thinking. So you get the inconstant body, which is like, it's a tumor. It's a kind of, it's a, it, when that's cells doing something that they're not supposed to do. That's they're changing, and they're unpredictable. That cancer is just like an uncontrollable growth. But you also get inconstant bodies. Like, this is a traitorous body. We've got traitorous, inconstant, and we've got a killer. And the dark man you chase in all of your thinking. And like, who is the dark man? Is the dark man the father? Is it the darker self of the you going, well, like, why am I dwelling on my own pain right now when my father is possibly dying? Or it's like the dark man is this like some kind of embodiment of that killer, of the tumor, of the cancer. And he's like, and now he is hundreds of miles away right now, which is interesting because that's another kind of a distance thing. At the beginning, they were talking about the thing being 4 inches wide, and that was a manageable distance. And now he is hundreds of miles away right now, because he's going away from the doctors, going away from the news, back to Boston. So he's 100 miles away right now, a manageable distance in itself, probably sitting in a chair, staring at the wall like a former assailant, which, again, we've got the killer, we've got the inconstant body, we've got the dark man, and like a former assailant. He's staring at the wall like a former assailant. So is he staring at the wall because this is messed with his mind? We do find out later that he's sending him text messages that are all with pieces of language missing. It's like, has he turned into the assailant? Has he become the cancer? Or is there a former assailant like this? There was a darker relationship with the father even before this cancer, before this distance. I mean, he's dying of a tumor, and the son is going away from him, trying to kind of grapple with it all. It's like, you're not trying to be with. So there's that kind of a, distance between father and son. And then, yeah, he is sending you text messages with critical pieces of language missing, which I put beside it poetry. It's like, yeah, what is poetry? It's text messages with critical pieces of language missing, or critical pieces of language that you have to try and fill in. As he says, you grasp at the shards stupidly. And it's like, these are the pain, and it's shards. So these are things like you're grasping at shards, and it's hurting you, and it's making you bleed, it's making you suffer, but you're doing it because you need to know, and it's like, it's all you have left of, all you have left. You has left of his father. And then, that final thing of little builder, little mirror, little body, and then we break line, guard, throwing punches at the flood. So it's like, little builder, it's like there is that kind of, I'm trying to build some sort of a meeting, try to build some kind of a relationship with my father. Too late. A little mirror, it's like, is this a reflection? This just a tiny little reflection of what this you is the father. And I mean, just also the idea of, I often think of, like, if inheritable diseases, of like, is this a little mirror of what I'm going to become? And then little body, guard. It's like little body. It's like such kind of, there's a thing there of just the little body, of how delicate, how easily our bodies are thrown off. It's a wonder. It's if I was religious, it's a miracle that bodies operate as long as they do, that they operate at all. And then there's a guard throwing punches. So we're back to kind of that violence again, throwing punches, but it's throwing punches at the flood, which is like, punching a flood has got to be the most futile, sad thing. That sad thing. It's just like you driving your hand through through water must be how you're gonna how dealing with something like this. And I have to say, at the flood, I thought of Bruce Springsteen, and were they just lost in the flood? There's that kind of just the flood, the flood of existence, the flood of the force of history, the flood of the force of the body and the body's decay, uh, and also just the flood of what happens between a father and a son, and the damage that could be there already. So yeah, that's my little thoughts. Oh, and you know, reparation, to make amends for wrongs, paying money or helping those who have been wronged. So reparation, like is this a reparation between the son to the father? Is it is this is this a poem of trying to be something about repairing, about trying to repair a relationship? Um, yeah, reparation. There's that kind of thing there of like, I've done wrong and I need to make amends. Is it asking for reparations from the father? Like, you should be, as asking for that, those sending him text messages with critical pieces of language missing. Is that, you know, especially since this seems to be somebody who's a you that is about words, is about constructing meaning, to write something meaningful about all this pain. And it's like in the end of the day, it's punching at the flood. It seems to be a thing. It's like, I'm trying to make amends, I'm trying to make meaning out of this pain, but I feel like I'm just punching the flood. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I will stop there.